Hello everyone, my name is Xiomara and today I will be demonstrating how to make a dry point intaglio print. So to start off, the materials that you're going to be needing for this project are plexiglass, aqua colored ink, paper tabs, newspaper, sponge, spray bottle, a spatula, some q-tips, cheesecloth, watercolor paper, Sharpie, and some tape. The first thing you're going to want to do to prepare your press is going to be to lay down some parchment paper onto the press, and after that you're going to take your watercolor paper and trace it onto the paper that you have just laid down, and then you're also going to trace the plexiglass. That way your end result will end up straight. In the end, it should look something like this depending on the size of your plexiglass and your watercolor paper. After that, you're going to want to adjust your press to the amount of pressure that you need for your print in order for the print to come out correctly. The amount of pressure that you're going to need from the press will depend on the thickness of your plexiglass and your watercolor paper. In this next step, we're going to be starting the inking process. As mentioned in the beginning, one of the materials that you're going to need is aqua colored ink. Right here I am using the color red, but of course there are different colors. It just depends on which you prefer. Before you start applying it to your plate, you're going to want to give it a good mix just to make sure that everything is mixed together and that there are no clumps when you apply on your plate. I'll then be using the spatula to spread the paint all over the plate, making sure that it gets into each scratch that I had scratched into the plate beforehand. Now that the plate is all inked up, you're going to want to get any of the extra paint that you have on it and put it back into the jar. That way when you start wiping, it's not too much that you're wiping away. You're going to want to get your newspaper and just start rubbing in the paint, going in circles, making sure that it gets into every crevice, and just making sure that most of the ink is off. That way when you start to print, it won't look all smudgy. In the end, this is how your plate should look when you've applied the ink. Next, you're going to want to grab your watercolor paper and your spray bottle in order for you to start spraying and dampening the paper. So right here, I'm going to get the spray bottle and start spraying the front of the watercolor paper, and then getting my sponge and spreading the moisture around. That way, every single piece of the paper is wet and damp. You're also going to want to wet the back of the paper, that way when you lay it down onto the parchment that's on the press, it won't bend too much. Then you're going to want to get your paper tabs, grab your paper, and head over to the press. Once you're at the press, you're going to get your plexiglass plate, place it on the outline that you had done beforehand. Make sure that it's nice and straight, and then you're going to want to grab your watercolor paper and place that right on top of the other outline that you had done beforehand also. You're going to get your parchment paper and lay it on top of the watercolor paper. That way any ink that gets on top of it will get on the parchment paper and not on the fabric that you're using. You're also going to want to get the fabric and put it on top of the parchment paper. That way your pressure is correct as when you tested it. And finally, you're going to want to pass the plexiglass through the press in order to see how your print came out. For your last and final step, you're going to remove the fabric that you had placed upon the plexiglass and the watercolor paper. Get your paper tabs and lift up your watercolor paper to reveal your image.